It's that time. We are running a little late today because we had breaking news. Breaking news with the Astros and Yuli Gurriel. It is hopefully championship day. Game number 6 of the World Series. Astros up 3-2. I'll give folks a minute to come get in the room. It is now straight up 4:45 on my clock, which means 2 tweets should have gone out. One on the Larry GM site account at 4:45, one on the Larry GM man account at 4:44. And so was a reminder for everybody. I know I didn't give a lot of advance notice because I didn't know exactly when I'd be ready to go. But I am ready at 4:45. Let's take a look. Larry, welcome to Larry the GM. Let's go down the article. Okay, where am I getting echo? Getting an echo. I'm hearing an echo. I'm not sure where. Okay. Well, we will go forward. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, I think I do know. It's from my phone. Okay, so guys, sorry about that. A little technical difficulties. The old man sometimes needs a little help on the technology. Let's see. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this off. Okay, here we go. Astros World Series Daily Game Preview. We will replace the video here. Lineups with Larry. Today's lineups. We have the Phillies have put in their lefty lineup they've been using against Fromber. There's not a lot of data for Edmundo Sosa, and for Gene Segura, there's not enough cutter data. So I've gone ahead and put like his overall expected versus the team. Don't hold me to these. One thing you see here, guys, this is what we talked about for game 2. The Phillies, because of the nature of what they hit well and what Fromber typically throws, they do have some good. We're gonna dig into that a little bit before we're done. Let's not bury the lead though. Yuli is out, unfortunately. Yeah, he sustained, I guess, the knee injury is bad enough. Dusty described that he really was trying with all his might, and trainers were doing everything they could to get him ready to go for tonight, and they just decided it wasn't happening. So they made a move. They've put Corey Lee on the roster and taken Gurriel out, which that means for tonight's lineup, Vasquez is batting 6th and DHing. Corey Lee will be the backup catcher if we need one tonight. If Molinaro gets hurt or something, Corey Lee will go in. Now, some of you may wonder, why was it Corey Lee and not Yonder Diaz? I'm not going to call up the AAA data, but Corey, just you can go look it up. Corey Lee was spectacular and extremely hot after being sent down from the Astros. So my belief is they took a look at Yanyers. Spent a lot of time just sitting on the bench, and so in that stretch, that Corey Lee was raking at AAA. So I think they felt like Corey Lee was probably the better batter, more prepared batter to jump into the lineup. I mean, the reality is, if they're using Corey Lee or Yanya, or if they would have gone to Corey Lee or Yanya Diaz, I think they wouldn't go to either one of those. They would let Dubon pinch it before they would expect the rookies to come in. So they're purely Corey Lee is purely available there as a DH. Now you may disagree. I mean, you may think, well, Larry, that's stupid. Dubon hasn't done anything. I'm just telling you where I think their heads at. Okay, I'm not saying that's necessarily how I feel about it. So tonight we got Christian Vasquez batting 6th, Trey Mancini batting 7th, playing first base, Chas McCormick batting 8th, and Martin Maldonado batting 9th. Notice that against Wheeler, Mancini, and you guys, I've sounded like a broken record. We're talking about Trey Mancini and the different things that the ex-Woba matchup guy says about him. Like, I know he's cold. I know he's in a horrible slump. I also know that Trey Mancini historically, or even in this year, his splits have been much better batting when he's playing defense at first base. I'm not sure I buy those kind of stats, but it is pretty interesting. And I forgot to put that in here. I'll put the numbers in there. You can reference it. So that's where Alvarez will be in left, Mancini at first, and Vesquez at DH. Corey Lee as the emergency backup catcher. And that's the lineup they're going to go try to win the World Championship tonight in the World Series Game 6 with. All right. So one other thing you'll notice about the Astros lineup, really, from a model prediction standpoint, it's a lot on Tucker and it's a lot on Alvarez. Uh, so when I talk about who I think's hot for tonight, those are my picks. Let me know if you're here. Hey, before I go any further, like this video, please. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please come to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or if you want to chat with me about when we're talking about, you got to come to YouTube. I'll see your questions in YouTube. So come to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the video, um, and let's try to build up the channel a little bit. All right, so setting the stage for Game 6. Astros can win it all tonight. The Phillies are throwing the race. Now, I just saw on MLB Network. I hadn't seen the data necessarily. Like, what is what are the symptoms of Wheeler's dead arm? Wheeler is down in game number 2 of the World Series. His fastball, which had been 97-ish through most of the postseason, was down to 95. That's now you may say, well, that's still 95. That's an indication of something fairly significant, fairly important, guys. A guy's fastball doesn't drop by 2 miles per hour one start. So as you're watching the game tonight, look for that. See, where is Wheeler? Uh, how's his fastball tonight? Key thing for you to look. Other experienced tip here. If the Astros win tonight, you're going to want to watch this game at any point in the offseason. Last game of the year if they win tonight. DVR it. I mean, there's gonna be all the videos, there's gonna be the replays, but you're gonna get the live feed as it is tonight if you DVR it tonight. Trust me, if you're a huge Astros fan, you're gonna want the game as it happened tonight. All right, so who would happen to start the next game if they got Wheeler going? I believe they'll bring Nola back on 3 days rest. And I believe the Astros, sorry about that, I'm going to hiccups. The Astros will either start Lance McCullers Jr. in game 7 or they'll start Javier on 3 days rest. Either way, I expect both of the starting pitchers very likely will pitch for the Astros in game 7 if we get there. All right, so the big storyline tonight is how healthy Wheeler is, how far will he go? What are we looking at for the Phillies there? Will the Phillies get to Velez? Obviously, they did in game 2. Can they do it tonight? Well, let's hope not. And how will the Astros do without Yuli? Especially from a defensive standpoint. It'll be interesting to see how Mancini does at first, since he didn't play at first. I think we're talking maybe 5 games at first base for Mancini as an Astro, which is something I was complaining about. Like, what happens? Let's at least have Mancini comfortable at first, and the infielders comfortable throwing to him. All right. So the other thing I'll say about tonight is that you've got Fromber, you've got Brown, you've got Garcia, you've got your Urquidy if you want. I mean, you've got all these guys available to jump into this game. Game 7, you got Javier, you've got Lance McCullers Jr. I could even argue that you could have Verlander on 2 days rest and Game 7 if we get there. So I expect the Phillies are gonna pitch Wheeler 3, 4 innings if the reports about his arm, if its velocity starts dropping off, even if it starts 95, or if it starts 97 and drops to like 93 or 92, they're going to bring in Suarez or Gibson. And that should be advantageous for the Astros as well. So look for that. All right. The Astros starting pitching is a huge advantage. I'm talking again about the bullpen. It'll be interesting to see how the Phillies manage their bullpen tonight. They've got basically all hands on deck. Let's talk matchups. So you can see in more detail because I showed you at the beginning like the overall score. This will be the spot in this guide that you can turn to tonight. I am not going to be able to do I'm not going to want to do a watch with Larry tonight. Something else special planned though. After the game, we will get on. We'll do post game party if they win, and I hope to be able to get simulcast with Twitter Spaces. Ran a little test this afternoon, seemed to work. So the plan as of right now, I've got it in I'll have it scheduled at 10:30. Is to have a post game party for this game. If they win, we'll come to YouTube. We can talk about it. We can party together. We'll take shots, whatever we want to do. We'll I will be. I will also have Twitter Spaces up, simulcast, and encourage people to come here. We can talk about chat, whatever we want to do there, and you can be on both if you want to. So you can talk. Obviously, you can talk in the Twitter Spaces, and here you can chat and you can see me. So there's Clint. Clint, what's up, Clint? Do you want to come? You want to come into the room? Let me see if I can do that real quick. Clint, I'll shoot you the message on uh, Twitter. That link should work, Clint, if you want to come in. So, um, the lineup again. It's this lineup for the Astros tonight. Really heavily dependent on how well Jordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker. That's what the model predicts. So obviously anybody can do anything. You know, game two we had people performing well against Wheeler that the model didn't necessarily predict. Mancini is a good matchup against Wheeler from the model standpoint because he hits he hits sinkers well, and he obviously hits fastballs well. So and curveballs. So the three things that Mancini is better at hitting, uh, he's hit. So they'll probably throw a lot. You can see they'll probably end up throwing Mancini a lot of sliders. Um, so that's the matchup guy. That's essentially can read it. What does the pitcher throw well? The darker red it is, that's what he throws well. What does the batter hit well? That the darker red it is. All right, Clint is in the house. So Clint,
Larry,
how are you, buddy?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Are you pumped about that?
I'm I'm doing really pretty good.
I've been
It's
pretty
my
calm.
brother-in-law's birthday today, so I'm getting ready for that, and then obviously getting ready for Game 6 tonight. So um, I know we were talking a little bit earlier about Yuli going to be out, and so they called Corey Lee up.
Corey Lee.
Mancini's going to get started first. DH Vasquez. I think a lot of that makes sense to me. I missed
Right.
the first part of this stream, so I don't know if I need to play catch up a little bit or not. But
Yeah, that's basically what we talked about. And again, if you'll remember when we talked about this matchup for game two, it there's some things here that favor the Phillies and their expectations of how to get the Fromber. But one of the things I did after that game or in preparation for this guide is I went through and I looked at let's the guide the number I quote in the matchup bid that's in the bottom of this table is essentially the calculation that's over here. But that that is a calculation based on how well each batter does against each type of pitch that the pitcher throws with the distribution of that pitch. Well, obviously, a pitcher's not going to throw a pitch that even if he's generally throwing it like 20%, he's not going to throw that pitch if the other guy that he's throwing to absolutely destroys that pitch. And so here you got the details of how the Phillies do against the pitches that Framber throws. And for each one of these batters, a lot of curveball action tonight is what I expect. So uh, Schwarber curve would be the advantage for the Astros. You see this not a great curveball hitter, and you see that the pitches that Fromber throws to lefties, that's the one he should go to. Hoskins, similarly, Hos- uh, he's an average-ish pitch, average, a little bit above average, and here you got the curve. And I guess Fromber could throw the cutter, but he doesn't have very much to the right-handers. So this table in this listing here, I've showed as I look at the matchup, what I would expect. So if you call this up during the game tonight, you won't have watch with Larry, but you can have what I expected the Astros should be doing with Fromber versus those guys. And I would expect very few four-seam fastballs to be thrown to this team. Maybe to Sosa, and some cutters. You can see the guys that have blue on the cutter side. You can see some of that. So that's what you would expect. The two lefties in their lineup, Schwarber and Harper, are unusually are great against cutters. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I mean, I'm not sure how many cutter fastballs they're going to see. But that's the matchup, and we'll see. We'll see if what I've predicted your holds. Clint, you have any comments about that?
My biggest thing, especially with Fromber on the mound, is we saw 6 innings of quality baseball out of him last time, but I want to. I think my biggest thing and my biggest takeaway with Fromber is everybody has to kind of realize he's a very natural thrower of his curveball, and so
Right,
I would expect him to lean on that even more tonight than before.
right,
But I think the changeup might be the biggest difference maker for him tonight, and it, depending on how well he can
yeah,
pair that up against those lefties. And so I'm really looking at that. I'm also gonna be. I'll be honest. I would not be surprised if they platoon 2 guys to take this game on, and
right. And
if we
I did
start
talk about
and
that.
then unload the tank, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, the Astros have some starting pitching that hasn't been used, right? So, I mean, we could go Fromber, Brown, Garcia, Urquidy. You can see that they've got pitchers that can be used in this game. So if Fromber does get into a challenge, um, and they need to bring somebody in, maybe in the post Harper part of this lineup. Uh, they could easily bring in one of the righties. It's a better matchup against some of these, and force the Phillies to go put in their platoons. So, Brandon, it's an interesting question. Do you expect them to be? I expect that they're going to sit looking for curveballs. I mean, that's what they should. I mean, these guys should be looking for this pitch from Fromber against them because they should be. I mean, they should be able to read the same table that I'm reading and say, well, that's Fromber's best option for me. So I expect that they're going to try to time that curveball and you know
Yeah,
and
I
get
think
it.
it's curveball, and that's why I think Fromber can take this thing to another level if he starts really mixing in that changeup a little bit more. And I
Yeah,
know it's not the most used pitch, and we're not as familiar with that as much as he is just a sinker curveball guy. But I,
right,
like I said, I think pairing that changeup and curveball well early in counts then sets him up to run a sinker in on some of these
right,
guys and really create the speed differential that he's going to need and all that. And I think the other interesting thing is how high his velocity is at the start.
right.
I think we saw him hit 96, 97 at times in game 2, which is not uncommon for him now, but I think that plays into it. And yeah, I think that's the case, Brandon, is how well he can establish the off speed stuff early.
Correct.
And then yeah, you're right. We may just see sinkers, and he's going to force those hitters to hit right over the top of it and drive it right into that front of the right into the front, right in front of home plate, and generate those ground ball outs that he has. So
So
um,
Brandon, what I
if
would expect is you're going to see some sinkers that he may set up the sinker with a curveball action, or flip it, have a sinker that the batter assumes is a curveball, and it just doesn't break, and break as much as his curveball does, and and they're just discombobulated because they think it's a curveball coming, the sinker coming. But I think it starts with being able to establish the curveball tonight. I really do.
Yep.
And it does, against these lefties. Although Schwarber and Harper are really good against that cutter. Maybe you throw some cutters that are outside or high, or
Mhm.
you're not necessarily throwing them for strikes, but you're making a credible threat that the cutter is coming. So I think there may be some pitches that are the let me I guess say it this way. I expect some fastballs, but I don't expect many fastballs for strikes.
No.
I don't think he's going to groove fastballs tonight.
No,
Uh,
I think the way that I look at it, Larry, is like if he throws a fastball, like if he's a left-handed hitter, it's going to be fastball in and a little up to work the curveball then in the inverse and kind of pair that matchup together. But what he can also do with that, and this is just how I feel it, is if he goes fastball up, curveball down and away, and he establishes the tilt there, then all of a sudden he can throw a sinker down and in, or even a changeup down and in, and start to continue to pound lower and in the strike zone, and not letting them get too comfortable living, so to speak, out in front and trying to pull the ball. And so
right,
they're going to have to make a lot of decisions. But and to Brandon's point, like he has to throw strikes, yes, but if there's anybody we want for a pitch to contact type of situation, and in a situation where someone who is going to have the type of late movement action on the baseball, this would be the guy. Like it doesn't fit any better. And then yeah, I agree, walks would be a thing. So Fromber's always one of those guys that kind of has one of those innings that just really troubles you, it stretches you
right,
out. So is it going to be the first inning or would it be the third inning? And then to me is how well is Dusty going to be prepared for that, number one, and number
right,
two, I want to give Fromber the benefit of the doubt because he's been a really good, he's been an exceptional pitcher this year. And I think
right,
the record and the starts and just the ability to go out there and consistently be that guy. I want to believe that he's got a better understanding as it compared to a year ago
right.
of what he needs to
Well,
do.
and what I can say, guys, is that the really the key piece of this, right, is getting the offense going too,
Yeah.
right? Is to get some runs on the board. I mean, if they have like 3 runs in the first 2 or 3 innings of this game, and Wheeler's throwing at 93 instead of 97, they're going to be massively. There's going to be mass hysteria on the Philly side. Those batters are going to be feeling the weight of the world pressure, weight of the World Series, really seriously,
Yeah.
on them, and that's going to set up well for Fromber and Maldi to do
Yeah,
some
and then
quick work
Fromber
there.
gets in that position to attack and to say, hit it, let's put it in play. The quicker you swing and roll over, the quicker I generate these outs, the sooner you run out of opportunities. Like it's a twofold thing, and I think that's another interesting point there to talk about. I haven't heard much about Wheeler except for obviously what we kind of,
Yeah,
up
so they
until the whole
talked.
thing
So
where it's
I think I talked about it
fatigue
before
and
you jumped on. The MLB
okay,
Network said that they showed his velocity on the fastball
yeah,
for the early postseason, and it was 97, basically. I mean, within point three of that, and then in game two it was like 95.1, and you think, well, that's not that big of a difference. Well, actually, I mean, that's
it's
a
a huge
big
difference.
difference
Yeah,
for somebody's fastball all of a sudden to drop 2 miles per hour in like in the
especially for a guy like him who needs
right
it.
and the most hyped. He's never been more hyped up for a game than he was for game two of the World Series. Trust me.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, something's going on there. And then there are all the reports from Philadelphia about the dead arm. So that's why, again, guys, pay attention to what his velocity looks like in the first few innings of this game. Because if it's in the 95, 94, 95 range, I don't think he's long for this game. I don't. They're not going to be
They
able.
can't
I mean,
afford it.
Wheeler's that's power pitching is his game, right? So they're not going to stick with somebody that's pitching 95 to the Astros. Jordan Alvarez will destroy him. So I mean, that's not going to happen. So let's
Yeah,
talk
and
about their
so
bullpen. Yeah,
I was
go
gonna
ahead, Clint.
say,
But
Larry.
we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. So I don't want to
Yeah,
go
no,
too
I
long.
was gonna say this is a good point to talk about. Is Thompson basically taking the side of I want you to empty the tank, and whether that's 1 inning, 2 innings, or whatever,
Right.
we'll manage it from there. So I'm kind of, and I think that just starts to bring in a ton of questions of who they go to next.
Yeah.
Are they going to be forced to have to go to Suarez? Are they going to be forced to have to start considering those options? And that all bodes well for the Astros.
Right.
Because, like I said, I know the game when Suarez starts, we were very much anticipating a victory that didn't happen in Game
Right.
Three, but at the same time that doesn't mean that what the data and the and the analytics shows for Suarez
Isn't
wouldn't come
possible. No.
true in a situation like tonight. So,
Correct.
it- you know,
So this page right here, guys, this part of the guide, the daily guide, it shows you the status of these bullpens. Right now, obviously, everybody's coming off of off day, so you can think, well, everybody's. Um, I don't think the Astros really want to pitch Ryan Presley unless it's ninth inning run lead, and they're going to go to Ryan Presley at that point. But if they have flexibility, if they have like a 3-run lead, don't be surprised if it's not Ryan Presley closing this game out tonight. It may be Stanek, or it may be Neris, right? And so don't be surprised for that. Or it could be Abreu. I think they're going to be more willing to go Abreu after 32 pitches, but Presley pitched 49 pitches over games, 4 and 5, guys. You don't really want to burn it out. Now, interesting enough, Alvarado, same exact pitches, 49 pitches in game 4 and 5. I believe they have to use Alvarado in the seventh, eighth, or ninth inning against that portion of the Astros lineup that includes Alvarez and Tucker. I think they could go to Suarez if they're wanting to go and start pulling in. If they're coming up to I showed you that Alvarez and Tucker are the two worst matchups for Wheeler. So if it's the fifth inning and Alvarez and Tucker are coming up and there's a runner at second base already, they will already have Suarez staged and ready to go for that portion of the lineup, knowing that Alvarez and Tucker could come up that inning. And I believe they'll pull that trigger and let Suarez pitch to those guys. And the question will be, will they only pitch him for those three guys, or will they let him go beyond that? Because they may say, okay, you're out, you're done. Next time we come to this portion of the lineup, it's Alvarado's turn, and then yeah, and if they're down early, yes, I think Suarez is their safety valve tonight. But guys, as I said before the game where Suarez pitched, like I was all for that because they're going to get to Suarez at some point in the series. Number one, he's left-handed, and they're most left-handed pitchers they've gotten to. So I mean, if for example, if this game goes extra innings, the Astros have a huge advantage. I mean, the Gibson and Nelson are their options for Phillies, and Garcia and Urquidy are the options for the Astros. So who what I think is going to happen? Who's going to be hot tonight? So Clint, who do you got? Who do you think is going to be hot
oh, I think
for?
it's Kyle Tucker. I picked him to be the World Series MVP, and I'm sticking with him.
Okay,
Um, I think I just an observer. I think Pena has been exceptional, and we've talked about him a lot in
right,
the website and this season because we've really honed in on how he was going to fit. So I wouldn't be surprised if Pena were to go 2 for 3 with a double and a
shock
home
the
run.
world,
It
right?
wouldn't surprise me at this point. But yeah, I'm sticking with Tucker.
So despite what I wrote in the like why the bats aren't working article, I still believe that Alvarez is going to get hold of one. And so I'm hoping I've been wrong about his hand, and that we don't find out tomorrow after we win the World Series tonight that Alvarez was really hurt. It would be Brandon. It would be wonderful
Yeah.
if Trey Mancini. I mean, I showed you Trey Mancini's not a bad matchup versus Wheeler. So it's entirely possible that Trey Mancini and I mentioned this earlier, Clint. I don't remember, but Trey Mancini as a first baseman has a better um, batting statistics, and I don't know if I believe those. I don't know if that where they play in the field necessarily impacts their offense, but it's interesting to look at. All right, so let's wrap
So
it up.
so Mancini's in the eighth hole, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Hmm. But yeah, I agree, Brandon. It would be nothing better than Trey Mancini to come up in a 2-2
I think the
count with a
Astros.
runner on third and drive in a
Yeah,
either a leading, a go ahead run or something like that. And how poetic would that be?
right. I mean, he makes a huge defensive play. Game five comes through with a huge hit. He's actually batting seventh. McCormick's batting eighth,
Oh, okay.
and so it's actually good because batting eighth, I think they could pitch around him and try to get the Maldonado or given Mancini's kind of uh, lack of strike zone discipline right now, it would be easy to kind of throw him things on the outside, knowing they could always go to Maldonado if he gets hurt. All right, so guys, here's the full matchup grids. You can look at those as the game goes on. You'll see, and you can just pay attention, red or blue, batter versus pitcher. Um, Predictions for tonight. I think the Astros are going to win like 5-3, something like that. What do you think?
I've got Astros winning 4-2.
All right.
Yep.
So that's it, guys. Any questions? Any predictions from the chat room? If you're on YouTube, give us your input. We'll close it out after that. Again, if you're on YouTube, I know we've got some people there. Um, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I think YouTube is going to be a tool that we use in this off season. There's a, I mean, I could show you my list. I've got a bunch of articles to write as soon as the postseason's over with. If you caught the test earlier, you already know what one of those articles is about. I was comparing dynasties over the last 20 years. So get ready for the reset of the dynasty article that we wrote last year. Especially if we win, that article is going to be pretty pro Astros. Just say it
Yeah.
that way. And so, guys, Brandon says 6-1 Astros. Brandon, that'd be really nice. Let's have
Yep.
a nice, easy, like no stress,
Will
party,
Smith in the
shots,
ninth type
enjoy
of.
it. I can watch the Longhorns, knowing that my Astros, maybe the Longhorns can get me in a position where they're up big and I don't have to worry about them tonight. It would be wonderful for all the games that are in this evening hours. The LSU shocks the world, beats Alabama. This I'm describing you the Larry the Jim perfect night. I don't expect all the most important one of those to me right now is Astros winning the World Series. So let's make it happen, guys. Join us for the after party. We will be on YouTube after the game. We will be simulcasting to Twitter Spaces. We ran the tech check. Think it's going to work. So that join us here, and then we'll see you later. Let's go Astros. Let's win the World Series tonight. Championship day. Have a good day.